Today we're going dark side. We're going into our indoctrination secrets. So this is something that I feel like most companies just don't do very well. Like, especially when we're talking like courses and membership sites, right? People just kind of rely on, they think people will do what they're supposed to be doing. And that's just not human behavior. Like looking up the stats today, 80% of books go unread. You think as simple as like buy a book, you're going to read it. Nope. Buy a course, you're going to do it. Nope. It's like 4% completion rates. And so a big part of that is how you onboard, how you indoctrinate your members. Like as soon as they buy, as soon as they join this thing, then it's how do we take control of that opportunity and really handhold them towards this promised land, right? So indoctrination is the very first step as soon as they buy and enter your kingdom. So
Yeah, we've been going hard on community engagement recently because if you don't have engagement, people aren't actively participating in the course or content or book or whatever they paid for. So if they're not engaging in the content, they're not engaging in the community, then you're going to lose them. And once people stop engaging, they stop paying, and you don't just lose a community member, you lose a future buyer, testimonials, referrals, all of the things that can help you grow your business from the inside out. So it really does start with community engagement. And that's why we need to teach people how to engage. So that's what Indoc is all about.
let's dive in. I'm going to share my screen. Boom. Okay. We're here. All right. Indoctrination secrets.
Dun, dun, dun.
I wonder if this is in the way.
Looks good for me.
Okay, so the success of your community truly relies on how active the members are, how engaged and bought in they are, and truly their sense of belonging to that tribe, right? That's why engagement can make or break your business. And this is why everything starts the moment that they enter the kingdom, the moment that they buy, the moment that they start this journey with you. Too fast. So most communities suck because they just don't teach people how to belong when they join the community, right? And so humans are wired for this belonging. And most communities, as we said, just don't teach people how to belong. They just don't, it's just not there. They just don't know, right? Like they're just, it's always on the product onboarding, but never in terms of like the community, the social side of things. And so, but when people join a new social environment, their brain is hyperactive to understand who they need to be and what they need to do so that they understand how to behave and how to belong, right? We often talk about like the cocktail party, right? And so like, especially if it's one of those corporate cocktail parties, after hours things, it's just a bunch of people like, sure, there's some similarity in terms of they probably all work together, but it's still just a bunch of strangers and it's like a high school dance, boys on one side, girls on another. And you're like, okay, have fun, right? Talk to each other. But if they don't know what to do, they don't know who to be, there's no kind of a sense of belonging and similarity, then there's just no engagement. So that's why you need more than just onboarding for your community, right? In order for them
Yeah.
to truly be,
Onboarding, most people think like, yeah, I've got my rules. They join the school or Facebook group. You hit them with a bunch of rules to say, this is what we don't do. And then hope that's enough for them to say like, all right, get in there and make a friend. And that's just not how humans are wired. They need more context.
yeah, they need to be indoctrinated, right? Because we talk about this psychological safety as a huge thing, right? If we're talking from lurkers to lifetime customers, then the big thing in there is psychological safety, especially when we're looking at like fitness, we'll specifically have like men only groups or women only groups just because it has that innate psychological safety. It's like you're trying to get this group of both people to post pictures without their shirt on or like, very vulnerable pictures. You're like, that's just not going to happen, right? So, because you have to have this psychological safety. And so part of it is how you set it up for psychological safety, but part of it is how you indoctrinate for it. So the first step to attracting the right people, the first step is attracting the right people, right? Like we talk about that in many other things, customer attraction. You want to build for belonging, you want to build for similarity, you want to call in the right people so that there's already this innate sense of belonging and similarity in the group. But once they're in there, that doesn't automatically mean that they're just going to be like, okay, this is me, this is what we do, right? This is us. But That's why once they've entered our ecosystem, it is our duty to teach them how to behave to get the result that they signed up for and how to belong so that they know how to fit in with the tribe and the other tribe members. So after studying psychology and the human brain for about 7 years now, we found that all we need to do to change their behavior is to change their identity, shift their identity, right? Slap on a new identity, teach them what that means, and then you get to dictate the whole ecosystem around that, the whole behavior around that. So if you're doing coaching of any kind, you're constantly fighting against this subconscious brain, right? The subconscious brain wants to protect us from change, not embrace new habits and new behaviors. Like that's uncertainty. The brain likes comfort. The brain likes, what is safe and easy and what we know and understand. As soon as it's unfamiliar, it feels like danger, right? And so big part of that is, they're acting from who they are, right? Or who they used to be, this like old conditioning. And we're trying to move them into this thing that they signed up for, right? Whether it is like six pack or like $1 million business or whatever, right? They're still acting from this old way of being. And so our job is to get them over here. So we need to get them out of their way by slapping on this new identity for them to live up to, right? That's step one. And then you get to define the beliefs and behaviors that we do, right? Once you say this is the identity, then you get to say, well, this is what we do as the identity. This is what we believe. This is what's going on around here. And that's what ClickFunnels did, right? They were the first SaaS company that we saw that's not just, hey, here's a software for you to do your job better, but they're like, you are a new breed of entrepreneur. We are smarter, we are leaner, we are faster, And they're like, we wage guerrilla warfare against these average brands and we win, right? We don't have a safety net. We don't take VC capital. We never ask for permission and are never shackled to investors, right? So they immediately tell us, okay, I'm a new breed of entrepreneur. You're like, that's exciting, right? That feels like status. And then they're like, you're a funnel hacker. You're like, okay, right? And like, what does that mean? And they're like, well, it means that we don't take VC funding. We don't need to, right? We don't need to serve a board of directors. We want to serve the public, right? We never ask for permission because we don't need to, because we don't have any investors. And so you can see it even at the bottom, they like funnel hackers define their own destiny, create their own luck, build their own empires, and change the world. So you can see they're like, this is an identity. This is who we are. This is who we're not. This is what we do. This is what we do not do. And then they paint this kind of like big vision. They're like, you're only one funnel away. You're like, from what? And you're like, whatever you want, really. Is it a new car? Is it a new house? Is it a, $1 million business? You're only one funnel away because you are a funnel hacker. And so this is a big light bulb moment for us in seeing this and how they did it. And then kind of doubled down on it when they're like showing us how they turned tool time fitness into lady boss weight loss. And so kind of the same thing, right? They're like, well, what's a lady boss? And they're like, that is a courageous woman who takes responsibility for where she's at. She isn't a victim of her circumstances. She doesn't make excuses or complain about what she can't change. She spends more energy doing something about it instead of telling everybody why she can't, right? It's this have it all mentality without having to compromise, not just talk, but getting it done, right? It's a no BS, take action, get it done, no compromise woman who values her integrity, confidence, self-worth, and doesn't change who she is for anybody. And so again, like when it was Tool Time Fitness, I think they did okay. But once they became Lady Boss, I mean, this was a tens of millions of dollars a year business, right? And they had one of the most engaging communities, at least in like the ClickFunnels space, probably in like women's weight loss in general.
And just a classic example of a me brand, 12 Time was based on her and her last name. And so it's, I'm the fitness trainer. Look at me. Look what I've done. You can be like me if you buy this program and you do these things, which is very much like a disconnect from the average person because she's doing all of the things. Maybe they don't want to do those things. They want the result, but it's like they aren't her. They don't want to be her. They want a version of her as themselves. So by calling it a lady boss, that's how we take a me brand, turn it into an us brand, a cult brand, because it's about who are we together. And so that gives a frame of orientation for this is who we are, this is where we're going, and this is how we get there.
And then you can see all of the $1 billion cult brands, they all do this, right? So Nike, they have this for every single division that they have, right? Nike running versus just Nike in general. The Think Different campaign for Apple, they're like, here's to the crazy ones, right? They're not saying like, here's a computer. They're saying this is for the misfits, the square pegs in round holes, you know? And then even Levi's, right? Jeans, clothing. But they're like, I am the new American pioneer, looking forward, never back. So all of these brands have really rallied people together, right? They're not just hustling products, but they're building this ecosystem, this, select group of identity and rallying them with saying, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, this is who we're not, this is who we'll never be, right? And so really taking that identity and then teaching them how to behave, how to belong. The only thing they don't do well is actually getting them to, communicate together. There's no group for Apple. There's no dedicated group for Levi's jean owners. Not that we know of, but they do this part really well. So with your brand, your community, you need to be indoctrinating people into your way of doing things. And more importantly, branding members with a new identity. This is where most brands drop the ball, right? As we talked about, most people, they're just like, once they get the sale, they're like, cool, let's find more people. They got this bucket of people that bought. They're like, let's just make a lookalike audience on Facebook and just get more of these people in. And it just forever becomes this front end machine of more people in, more people in.
Most
Whereas
people think I've got good content and that's enough because this content will get them some result that they want. They've already paid for it. Now I give them the thing that they want that gets them results. So they should be self-motivated to take the action and get it done. But most people suck at doing what's good for them. They're not self-motivated. And so that's where we need to teach them how to self-motivate by giving them that frame of orientation for how to belong. Because people suck at doing what's good for them.
That's where tribe leaders step up, right? This is where the game begins for us, not ends. And so here's our indoctrination framework to teach members how to belong. Two-part system, right? So product onboarding, we can't get rid of that. Everybody has some version of this and you have to, right? You have to make sure that they have access to the thing. They, like continually do the things we need them to do, right? Like somebody buys a book, you give them the book, right? Somebody buys a course, you have to make sure that they create the account and actually get started and move through it. Of course, that's number one, right? To inform the desired behavior, we need to define the result we're moving towards, which means that we need simple onboarding steps to get them moving in the right direction. So this is basically behavioral momentum, right? This is also when people talk about the commitment curve, it's just you need them getting started and then moving forward and just doing these incremental steps and just increasing the intensity and increasing the commitment, right? Until you have this the law of ownership where they feel like they own something. So it's a lot harder for them to let go of it, right? It's like that people will do a lot more to not lose $100 than they will to gain $100, right? So product onboarding is really just getting them moving into the product, into the community, into the coaching, right? Moving through the steps until they actually understand what they're doing, what they need to do. And just more importantly, getting access and started. So our 3 steps there: access, amygdala, and anticipation. So access is super easy. I mean, that should be email 1. That should be step 1. Whatever they paid for, make sure that they have access, because if they never do that part, I mean, that part's crazy, of course. At bare minimum, they need to get access to the thing that they bought. And then as we move forward, then we really want to take care of the amygdala, right? That's the anxious part of our brain. That's the part that's it's a foreign ecosystem. It's a new world, new kingdom. What are we doing here? And so to calm that, we really just want to give that, the overview, what are we doing? Where are we going? Just basically calming them down and saying this is what you signed up for. This is the long term, maybe even breaking down in terms of we're just trying to get you here, right? Just to the first milestone, just start to do these things, right? We just want to calm down their overwhelm of there's all these things and I need to be over here. You're nope, just set the expectations. This is where you are. Let's just get to the first lily pad, the first milestone. And then from there, it's anticipation, because that is such a powerful emotion, right? They talk about when you're taking a sip of coffee, it's not the taste of coffee on your tongue that you're looking for. It's that feeling, that anticipation of what that feeling is going to be. That's the emotion. That's the magic. So we want to build that anticipation for like, where are we going? For like, what are we doing here? Get them excited for what life will look like, that, big picture. And so product onboarding is still a very important part. Make sure they have access, make sure we calm the brain and setting the expectations for what we're doing and just moving them through this commitment curve and increasing the intensity. But then number two, this is the special sauce. This is the secret stuff right here. This is where we start identity indoctrinating, the real magic of a tribe brand. So this is identity shifting, right? So a big part of our model is taking somebody from the beginning to the promised land. And so obviously they have to do the things every day or every week or whatever your process is until they get this thing. But because human nature is so fickle, because they're, maybe even when things are going really well, people will just stop doing them. I remember we had a podcast like 10 years ago, and then a friend in the bar, he's like, you guys like never stop. I'm loving these things. And I think that was the last one we ever did. And so, yeah, even with like a TikTok we started, it's like they were going well. We had our systems, we just stopped. It's just human nature. But if you shift the identity will control the behavior. So a big part of this whole thing is starting the identity shifting so that we can control the behavior and keep them moving forward. So step one is this frame of orientation. You want to hit that?
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, who are we? Where are we going? How do we get there? That's essentially what makes up a frame of orientation. And the identity is what holds this set of instructions. Like if you were a runner, then you run and you buy running shoes and you work that into your schedule. And you probably have like maybe certain words you say, at least like surfers, there's a lot more slang that they have that other people don't use. And so all of these identities make up our frame of orientation for the world we live in and our role in it, and who else is in those little ecosystems, what we do, what we say, how we dress, all these things form our frame of orientation for how to belong. And so we believe every tribe needs to do that for their people.
Super powerful. Yeah. So that's step one, is really giving them that like map and compass. And then step two, we want to increase the emotion.
People don't move if they don't have emotion. No emotion, no motivation, no action. So the manifesto is a way to kind of take that frame of orientation and turn it into an emotional rally cry. So somebody wants to adopt that new identity, take action, get results. Some people, lead pages was like ClickFunnels' probably biggest competitor at the time. And they're like, you need to build a funnel, then here's funnel building software. And so whoever bought it is, capable of winning or not, but there was really no like rally cry about who we are to unify that audience. And we are lead page users. It was a fine product. But again, like the product, the content, that's not enough to build a tribe and to get people to do what's good for them. We need to increase their emotion and their motivation. And so that's where a manifesto does a good job of pulling people behind that vision.
Yeah, and you can see, I mean, we just went through Levi's manifesto and Nike's manifesto and Apple's manifesto and ClickFunnels manifesto and LadyBoss manifesto. All the big dogs have one, super powerful, right? It's that piece of writing that starts the whole thing, gets people excited. And then we take that one step further and then say, okay, this is, the manifesto will create that emotion, get them excited. But then we really need to say, like, well, what is that for you? What is that promised land? Like, you signed up for this thing. And we have a very clear result, but that's going to look a little bit different for everybody. And so we want them to be able to see it in their own words, in their own light. Like, we want to paint what the promised land looks like, right? For over 40 alpha, we're like, you're going to be in the alpha zone, which means under 15% body fat, over 600 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone, right? That's the promise. But then for them, we're like, well, what does that mean for you, right? Because if they have three young kids and they're like super tired all the time and they work all the time, then for them, they're like, okay, well, I can actually keep up with my kids then, and I'll actually have the energy at the end of the day to do all these things. And I can, they start writing out what that grand vision will look like when they are in the promised land. And so that is when it becomes real for them. We can just keep talking about like, yeah, you're going to be here. But until they can see it, until they write it in their own words, until they, like feel it and understand that's where I'm going, then it becomes concrete.
Anchored in their why.
And then we take that one step further and then make them declare this. You're like, this is what you just wrote out of what you're looking to do, of where you want to go for yourself. Make that declaration, right? And in influence, Robert Cialdini talks about how powerful writing this declaration, even just saying like, I'm going to lose 5 pounds. You could have that goal, but the minute you write it down in your own handwriting, and then more importantly, make it public, put it on the fridge, show your wife, tell your friends, put it on Facebook, now it's real, right? I think the compliance increase was like 50%. So it's people are a lot more likely to do something when they've written it down, they've made it public, but more importantly, they see it in their own handwriting. Because people hate to be inconsistent with their word. They're like, I'm gonna do this, and they start making it public. It's really hard to go against it. So declaration is kind of like that final nail that it's like, okay, right, this is where we're going. Then the manifesto is like getting the emotion. And then the grand vision is making them see it in their own words, in their own writing, in their own head. And then the declaration is them committing to it. So for 90-day tribe Indoc, we did the same thing, right? So we have a whole module on becoming a tribe leader. So of course we have product onboarding. In phase one, we talk about the model, we talk about the whole landscape. But then by module two, then we're a lot more obvious with the indoctrination for the tribe leader, so that we show them here's the mindset. It's very different. You got to like be in this mindset. Here's the values. You have to be, transformation of a transaction. You got to play the long game. Here's the 4 tenets of who you need to be, right? Here's the credo of what we believe. Here's the manifesto. There's not a lot of strong leaders left anymore, and who you need to be and how people are craving something deeper. And then we create the grand vision, right? They write out what does it mean when they're leading their tribe? Is that 100 people at $100 a month, just for like 10K a month, nice lifestyle business? Or is it 26,000 people at $29 a month, right? Bigger team, bigger energy, bigger money. Like, what is that vision for you? And then, of course, the declaration. So we get them to write it in school, write it out, commit to it. And then we even send them the anchors that just solidify in person them becoming the tribe leader. So we make it tangible, get them to write it down, get them to like wear it and embody it before we get them moving through the product, which actually, they start doing the behavior to become it. So that's how we indoctrinate.
It's really about branding. I mean, we were in marketing for so long, and we're like, this is really hard. So instead of making ourselves better at marketing, how do we make our clients more marketable, more attractive? And one of the earlier stats we found is that people make up their mind about a brand in the first 50 milliseconds. So just from like the words you use, the graphics, the slang, the targeting, all of these things, people will immediately identify that's a fit for me or that is not a fit for me. And so it's those identities we hold. They help us like bucket ourselves to say, this is where I belong, this is where I don't belong. And the subconscious brain already has so much firing at it all the time. Like we have 5 to 10,000 ads hitting us every day. So the brain doesn't have capacity to make all of those relevant to our conscious brain. So it has to have frameworks and shortcuts to decide what is relevant to show us and what we can just ignore. So most of the time, like most of your marketing will just hit the subconscious brain and bounce as they scroll by. So if your ads aren't working, people aren't actually buying, then it's probably just like a resonance problem. And that's where branding really comes into play here. But we're talking about like branding through the whole experience. Most people think of branding as like, I need cool colors and fonts and a logo and stuff like that, and then I'm in business. But we're like, the brand is everything. Like we want to create that collective brand like Lady Boss did. And so it's built around a collective identity to define who we are and who we want to be. And then they give the tools to step into that. So they're branding their customers with that new identity. And so now they have the understanding of what it means to be a lady boss, a funnel hacker, or whatever. And so then they can say like, now that is my identity. It comes with this certain instruction manual that tells me who I am, where I'm going, and what it takes to get there. And so now they are like branded to the point where someone like Bruce Taylor in the Over 40 Brotherhood will get a giant tattoo because of the significance he feels and the identity he's adopted. He's all in. He's not going anywhere. He's our best member. He's our captain. And he gets a lot of significance from his status and his role supporting the Brotherhood because it's who he is. It's his identity. So if you can give them a new identity and help them really embody and adopt that, then it can give them the significance that makes them want to pay and stay and engage and lead your tribe for you and help you grow from the inside out. So that's why some brothers are saying, like, yeah, I had a great Labor Day weekend, but like the highlight was talking to my mechanic about this fitness program. So, I mean, they just naturally want to talk about it because birds of a feather flock together. So your best customers are already hanging around with your best customers. And if people are getting results, happy customers like to tell people, they like to talk about it. And especially if it's fitness, like something that's an obvious transformation, people are going to ask anyways. So the more you can get results and get happy customers, the more you can grow your business from the inside out. And so it really comes down to helping them adopt that new collective identity, brand them. So that's what indoctrination is really all about. Essentially, get them
Yeah.
to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Well, make them feel like they already belong by calling in the right people, right? Using the right philosophy and personality, talking about all of the things on the front end that they're like, the right people are like, that's me. I get that. Even like hearing your story, you're like, I see myself in that story. The result, they're like, I want that result. They already feel like they're a part of this thing before they ever enter. Then you put in the indoctrination secrets, and they're like, okay, now I know who I'm becoming. And now I know what I got to do. They read the manifesto, they get excited, they write out the grand vision, they see it, they feel it, they make the declaration, they're ready to go, right? And so now it's not just, hey, here's this thing you bought. It's like, this is what we're doing, right? This is where we're going. And so then it's just a daily reminder. So even in the like footer of emails, we'll have little bits of hope that just point right back to where we're going, what we're doing, other people that did that. And so it's just a daily reinforcement of the behavior, of the identity, just pulling them to that promised land. So you get the results, you get the testimonials, you get the referrals, and this thing just grows from the inside out.
You get the engagement, and the more people engage, the more of a habit it becomes. The more they post, the notifications become a feedback loop. So they come back and see the likes and comments, and then that reinforces good behavior. So they want to post again. And then the more they're posting, the more they're doing the rituals, the more they're engaging in the content, the more they're going to succeed and get results and become happy customers. And the more their posts will inspire other people to do it and follow along. And that's how you just go narrow and deep and ultimately create this reputation where, like, if you have similar people doing similar things and getting similar results, the social proof on your front end, on your thank you, or on your proof page, on your sales page, they're going to all look some version of similar, and preferably similar to the person who's looking and considering buying. And so now they can see themselves in your shoes if the resonance is there between you and your ideal customers, but then they also see themselves in all of the successful customers on your.
Did I freeze or did you?
But if you're the right person to solve this problem and they can see other people like themselves that have succeeded with this program, it's going to be real hard to say no. And so that's what gives you the opportunity to indoctrinate them and get them success and keep that spiral moving forward to dominate your little corner of the internet.
And it's your little corner of the internet. You get to make it whatever you want. I feel like there's so many, even with like our own businesses, people saying like, well, you can't say that, you can't do that. People trying to like silence you, like you're not allowed to swear, you can't, don't use those graphics. And it's like, no, this is your world. This is your kingdom. You get to invite in, people like yourselves. You get to be and should be as raw and real as you naturally are. So it's just easy and it flies from there, right? As soon as you're trying to be something or trying to silence a part of yourself, it's you don't have to. It's your kingdom, it's your world. So invite in the right people, indoctrinate them, really rally them towards this promised land of what we're doing, who we are, where we're going. And then it's just a lot more fun. So let's go build your tribe. Big
Be
world
that
out
easy.
there.
So yeah, go build your tribe. And that's the Tuesday at 2 as we do.
Thursdays, baby.
Oh, it's Thursday. Yeah, just kidding. Different tribe audience. Okay. Well, remember, it's always sunny when you're making money.